Today, let's talk about part two of
Oh,
the battle of good versus bad
yep.
foods. So first off, biggest thing that we are really big on with you guys is defining things, right? So first off, let's define bad. What does bad even mean?
It's important, like, for you to define things for yourself, not just to take our definition.
Totally.
But this helps like when we say something, this is what we mean.
Yes, exactly. So some common phrases that you might hear when you think about like, oh, that's a bad food is junk food. Junk food, we're going to use the definition of like foods high in sugar and or fat. Hyper palatable, meaning
Oh,
like you
it
can,
just tastes
you
so
just,
good.
oh yeah, they're so good on that
Once they
tongue.
hit your lips,
Oh, give me some
it's
more.
like Pringles.
Yeah,
Makes you pop.
exactly. Can't stop. And they usually don't fill you up, okay? Nutrient poor. So maybe it lacks macro, micronutrients, empty calories. People often think like, oh, well, it's just empty calories. So they make you fat and they make you hungry.
There's some similarities in those ones that
Yes,
kind of overlap depending on who you ask. Like some of those
for
things will
sure.
all be the same.
Yeah. And then we have like, oh, well, like it has chemicals in it. Maybe you can't read the ingredients because you just can't read them
Yeah.
or they're fake or it's artificial. Maybe processed foods are bad. So foods that have been packaged or altered. So that for today's purpose, we're going to be talking about more of the like junk food, empty calorie, and nutrient poor
Because
categories.
they kind of all fall under
Yeah.
similar umbrellas.
So first off, junk food.
Yeah.
You
Yep.
like our quotations. Whenever we put something in quotations, it's
Yep.
subjective. I'm just saying. So when it comes to junk food, typical sources that you often think of are like fast foods, packaged foods, pastries, desserts, fried foods, like you name it. Those are typically people associate as junk food. So what's the challenge with junk foods?
They taste delicious.
That's true.
They're very easy to eat, and not just like one, but easy to eat a lot of. Like, when you sit down and get snacky, you're just like, oh, I'm gonna have a few, and you end up eating the entire bag. Like that happens a lot. They hold a lot of calories, and you're typically hungry sooner, right?
Yeah.
So it's not something that you eat and it's like, oh, I'm good for the rest of the day.
It's like you think about like these fast food places, and normally it's like, oh, I'm just gonna have a hamburger, like it's the hamburger meal. Now it's like, oh, you get two or three hamburgers in a meal. You're like, who the fuck needs two or three hamburgers? You're like, okay, this better be a share meal, right? But what is the purpose of like these junk foods? Well, enjoyment, soul enjoyment. It fuels your soul.
And I would say a lot of like food companies or fast food companies get a bad rap because like, oh, all they're doing is making food more delicious to make it harder on us. It's like, yeah, they want you to enjoy it. And
Yeah,
yes, I'm sure there's
it's true. I
part of their
mean,
business like is guaranteed because if you like it, you'll keep coming back. But
yeah.
like, I wouldn't say it's necessarily evil to make a product that people enjoy eating.
Yes. But like for people who need more fuel, so people who need more calories, it can also be of a purpose or benefit to them. Or people who lack time. So maybe they need calories, but they don't have a lot of time to consume their calories. So they need something that's higher in calories that's quicker to consume. Like,
So enjoyment and convenience most of the time.
yeah, totally. There you go. That's how he sums it up because he's so simple at that.
I'm simple.
So when it comes to
No,
junk
he's
foods,
simple.
like how can you enjoy them? Well, typically, as with anything in moderation, right? Being fully present, and that's with any of the foods that you're eating. Like so, sitting down, focusing on the food that you're actually eating, honoring the food that is going to give you fuel. It's going to give you nourishment. It's going to give you all of these things, and then of course, like planning it in. So this applies to anything that you're going to eat typically.
And sometimes it also helps like looking at the purpose, like, oh, what's the purpose of this? And that helps you to be able to enjoy it differently. Because if you're like, oh, hey, I'm gonna eat this little candy bar because I want to be full, probably not the right choice. But
Yeah.
if it's like, oh, I'm gonna eat this thing because I don't have a lot of time and I really want to enjoy like a small sweet treat, it's like, oh, beautiful, then enjoy it. So sometimes it's just perspective on why you're eating something changes the dynamic.
Totally, that makes a massive difference. And so there's even like, we'll say good foods that could possibly fit this, we'll say junk food category. I mean, there's protein bars out there. So yes, there is protein, but there's a lot of protein bars that say they're protein bars that are really we aren't protein bars.
Yeah, or just like health snacks, like a
Yeah.
little stinger like
Granola,
snacks.
acai bowls, like nuts and nut butters, like all of those things are very easy to consume. Sometimes they have high sugars, high fats, and they don't necessarily fill you up because if you've ever measured a tablespoon of peanut butter, I will tell you it is going to be probably 3 tablespoons that
Yeah,
you measure
it's
out.
depressing.
It is very depressing. So we want to do a little calorie comparison.
Oh.
And so here you're looking at, you have your Kind Energy bar. It's a dark chocolate peanut butter, and then you got a regular size Snickers bar. But if you look, the calories are comparable. And even when you're looking at like the macronutrients, like there's not that much of a difference. So like, yes, there is a little bit more protein in the Kind Energy bar and a little bit more fiber, but like 4 grams versus 10 grams, like, is that really going to make a difference when it comes to satiating you?
Well, and
Like,
even for the like satiation factor, I would say like back to like, oh, purpose, like pure enjoyment. Are you eating the kind bar? 'Cause like, oh, it's a healthy option. And you don't really enjoy it. Whereas like you can spend the same amount of time eating a Snickers, but if it brings you more like satisfaction, you're happy, and you can just throw a little extra protein on one of your meals later, what would be better off, right? Because yeah, I think kind makes an ice cream bar.
mhm.
And I think the Twix ice cream bar is actually like way less in calories. So it's
Yep.
like, if you're gonna do it, might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, totally. Even like looking at the Dairy Queen banana split versus a Jamba Juice acai bowl. I know like there's a huge craze. I don't even know if I would say that there's still a craze when it comes to acai bowls, but like there is sugar, natural sugar is still sugar. And so these are both like comparable when it comes to calories. There is more fiber in the acai bowl, which is great, but at the same time, like what's the purpose behind eating either one of these?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you got like a Panera Deli turkey sandwich versus the McDonald's Big Mac, like very similar. Like, yes, there is some more protein in the turkey sandwich, but like, what do you enjoy more? Like, could you get 10 grams of protein somewhere else? Because like the calories, once again, are pretty comparable.
And like we've talked about before, some of those things, it's like, oh, if you're gonna enjoy the Big Mac and it's gonna help keep you on track, it'd probably actually be better off doing that versus saying, hey, I'm gonna have the turkey sandwich because it's better off, and then later
Fuck it,
on
I'm gonna go for a Big Mac anyways.
yeah, or just like later in the day, it's like, oh, you're not really satisfied, so you get a little snacky. So it's like, oh, cool. Like, we've talked about it plenty of times. Having an alternative and trying to like fight a craving may lead to a slippery slope. Whereas in this is like, oh, find something that you enjoy eating, and then you probably won't have such a crazy food drive.
Totally. And then let's look at like preparation comparisons. So a lot of people like they would look at avocado toast and then be like, "Oh my gosh, avocado toast, that is the jam. It is so healthy for you." But yet like,
It's all little brunchy spots. Got it. It's
oh
like,
total,
oh,
oh gosh, that
that
is such like a brunch item
the
nowadays.
the healthy item. Just gonna get avocado toast. That's the
Yep.
responsible choice.
Yep. But then like what's wrong with like chips and guacamole? Like that's pretty similar.
Yeah, you'd be like
Like
people go to brunch and they'll be all excited. So I got my avocado toast. I made a great choice. But then they'll stay away from a Mexican restaurant because oh man, the chips and guac, I just lose my mind and it's so unhealthy. It's like there's no real difference. It's guacamole on some form of edible plate.
yeah, for sure. Even like a burger. So burger, you got like your lettuce, tomato, you have like your carbs, you have your veggies, you have your meat. But then you also have like your steak veggies with a glass of wine. So like the wine would be your carbs, and then yeah, sure, you have some veggies there, and then you have your steak. But like some people would look at like, oh, steak veggies with a glass of wine is healthier than a
Responsible choice.
burger. But like they could technically hold the same type of macronutrients and or calories depending on how they are prepared.
And these types of things help you to start to remove the labels or for those things to fade or blend away where it's like, oh, cool. Like if you look at the makeup of the food, they're not much different.
Yeah. So what's the common theme here? Well, labels don't matter, right?
Mm.
Calories do, however, matter when it comes to changing your physique. And so let's dive into empty calories. Well,
Oh,
empty calories are what people think of foods that typically don't fill you up. So whether that's, drinking your calories like alcohol, soda, energy drinks, juice, and then you got your junk food, potato chips, burgers, fries, and you got your sweets, donuts, pastries, cookies. So these are typically what people associate with empty calories. So foods that don't fill you up, maybe leave you hungry later. But the reality is that all foods have calories. They have calories, regardless of how you feel, they fill you up.
yep. And I think a lot of people think like, I think the term got popular when it's like, oh, like if they're, like low on nutrition, then they're empty calories. It's like, not really. Like the calories hold the same amount of weight, regardless of the macro and micronutrients in the food.
Yeah. And so very similar to the calorie comparisons. You got an egg on avocado toast versus like fries, but like similar in calories, very similar in macronutrient makeup. Sure, the avocado toast has a little bit more protein in it, but like once again, like pros and cons to anything that you're doing. Same thing, like you're looking at almonds, like almonds are very calorie dense. Yes, they have some protein. Of course, they have more fat than protein, but like if you're looking like calorie to calorie, they are equivalent and they're probably very similar in size.
And then, yeah, the reality is like 35 grams of almonds fit in a
Yes,
toddler hand. You just like, I
there
could
you
eat it. I
go.
could swallow like a handful of pills and not even have to chew.
This is so true. Same thing, like honey versus sugar, like same amount of carbs, same amount of calories. And so let's think about a calorie spectrum.
Oh,
So, what's the calorie density of foods? So, there's going to be foods that are more calorie dense, that are smaller in volume, that you'll see on the left-hand side. And then you're going to have foods that are less calorie dense, and they are larger volumes of food. So, less calories, bigger volume of food. Think like veggies, think lean proteins, think those types of things. More
like
calorie
miracle
dense.
noodles.
It could be miracle noodles. Those are good. The shirataki noodles.
Yeah.
More calorie dense. You're thinking, like fats. Fats hold a lot of calories, so anything that's high in fats is going to be very small amount that you can eat with a high amount of calories in comparison to the opposite. And so it's just a calorie spectrum. So diving into that nutrient pour that we were kind of touching upon when it came to micro and macronutrients. Once again, we have our nutrient spectrum. So what's the nutrient density of the foods that you're consuming? Well, you're going to have less nutrients to more nutrients. You'll have less macros to more macros, less fiber to more fiber. Like it's just a spectrum. It's not good, it's not bad, it is just gray. And so it's like, where does this food fall on that spectrum? And as he touched upon before, what is the purpose of that food? What are you looking to get out of it?
And the reality is that at different times in your life, you'll like different points of the spectrum will make more sense at any given time, right? So like if you're dieting down and you're someone that likes to have a lot of food, then maybe being towards one end of the spectrum makes more sense at that chapter. And then if you're someone that's like, oh man, I'm so busy and I feel like this is just so much food, it's hard to handle, then sliding towards the other end of the spectrum, and like fun little like secret for you. Most of the time when people are like, oh, I'm starting to lose weight, I'm just eating so much more food, they just sliding to one end of the spectrum that has higher volume. It's like their calories are actually less. They're just eating higher volume of food. So it feels like they're eating food,
Yeah.
but they're
So
actually eating less.
So for instance, if you were to think about like the almonds and the donut that we just talked about, well, the almonds are probably going to have more micronutrients than the donut. So they'll be more nutrient dense than the donut. But in the calorie spectrum, they're the same amount of calories. So if we were to take a look at pizza, let's look at
Oh,
the density of this pizza. So what's it made of? You got your crust, which has carbs, protein, you got some fiber in there, you got your sauce, has some carbs, some vitamins like vitamin K, calcium, some lycopene, you got your cheese made up of protein, fats, calcium, B vitamins, you got your pepperonis, protein, fat, salts, B vitamins. So there's your pizza has nutrients and it has calories, right? The challenge with pizza,
it's just so damn good.
it's so damn good. It's hyper palatable. It's higher in carbs and fats, typically. It's higher in calories in comparison to the volume that you can eat, and it tends to be lower in protein and fiber, which then makes it less satiating.
So a little goes a long way.
Yeah, so like, so does that mean you shouldn't eat the pizza? No. I mean, unless you're like super lactose intolerant and you got like, then that's a, is it worth it type of thing? How much pizza works for me?
Or gluten.
Yeah, or
Yeah,
gluten. There you
celiac.
go.
There you go.
There's all the
They have
things.
options for that now.
Yeah, exactly. So like how can you enjoy pizza? Well, you could get small, you could get slices of pizza, you can share it with a loved
Yeah,
one.
you could eat it there. You could eat it.
You can consume it on a higher calorie day. You can pair it with the salad to make sure that you're getting some extra fiber.
In a boat with a goat.
Add a protein source to it. So like there's different ways that you can enjoy this while still staying on plan, right? But it just comes with having that plan. And now if we're thinking about like cereal, for instance, like cereals are fortified with vitamins and minerals.
Yep.
They started doing that with a lot of foods because we were having nutrient
Yep.
deficiencies. And so is cereal lacking nutrients? Not necessarily, but it might be like lower in protein, lower in fiber, which means it's less satiating. It's very easy to consume for a small amount, tends to be higher in carbs or sugar. And so how can you enjoy cereal? Well, you can use a protein shake as your milk. You can add some berries to it, or have a side of berries to give you some more fiber. I've made like lean sausages that we've eaten like with our cereals. They even have protein cereals out there that some of them are actually pretty dang good.
Yeah, or you can sweeten up some Greek yogurt and put it on top.
There you
So
go.
little
Exactly.
crunchies or textural different. So it's like, once again, not that it's bad. It's like, all right, figure out how you can consume it in a way that one, you enjoy, and then two, like you actually benefit from.
Totally. And so here's a couple awkward truths that we're going to dive into. Guess what? Beer doesn't make you fat.
Nope. Oh, too many bears might. This one's maybe.
But pizza doesn't make you fat. Too much pizza probably does. Carbs don't make you fat. Too many calories do.
Ooh.
And so eating only healthy foods isn't going to make you drop weight.
You can do healthy things in an unhealthy manner.
Thinking about that avocado toast, thinking about the salmon, thinking about acai bowls, thinking about nuts, like you can definitely overconsume the healthy foods. So calories matter. No single food is going to make you fat, but more calories than you need will. So that's regardless of where they come from, whether you view these foods with these labels of good versus bad, more food than what is needed for your body will make you fat.
It's like all like the cute little images they have like the avocados or the eggs.
I'm
Like,
the
but I'm
good.
the good fat. It's like, yeah, but you could still be too much.
Yeah. And so eating a varietal diet within your calorie budget is really what you want to focus on. So eat a variety of foods. Like technically, like when you think about this whole like new microbiome, and your digested system, like it's good to eat a variety of foods. Hence, why do you think that there's seasonal fruits and foods and whatnot, right? That doesn't mean that you can't eat a slice of cake or a pizza or have a beer.
Just put a seasonal fruit on top.
But remember, there's no such thing as good or bad foods. It's just bad portion sizes, right? Or moldy foods, or shitty tasting foods like
Yeah,
matcha.
yeah,
Not a matcha
yeah,
fan.
but to each their own.
Yeah, everybody has their own.
If you like it, go for it.
Yeah.
It's more matcha for you.
In conclusion, evaluate, like how you're using and defining the word bad food. What are these beliefs that you have surrounding food? And we challenge you to start removing these labels and look at foods for what they actually are. They are calories. There's a calorie spectrum. There's a nutrient density. All foods have calories. All foods have nutrients. Some just have more calories and more nutrients, or less calories and or less nutrients than others, right? And no one food's going to make you fat. Too much of anything will. So eat a very diet that fuels your body and of course your soul as well. And then make sure to join us for good versus bad foods, part 3, where we're going to cover the process and chemicals portions. But if you have any questions, submit a burning question or apply for a breakthrough session inside the Fit Foodie coaching course.